So Erskine was founded in 1916 primarily to provide support for those returning from the front in World War One.
Q Talks with Liz Bailey. Our access to audio programmes are sponsored by Impact Funding Partners, the R.S. McDonald Charitable Trust and the Suter Charitable Trust. To find out more about how to access our services, visit CueAndReview.com or email aaatl@CueAndReview.com. This programme was produced and presented by our Access to Audio Ambassador team leader, Liz Bailey, and edited by our Recruitment Training Officer, Alastair McPhee. Well, welcome to another edition of Q Talks with me, Alastair McPhee, standing in for our Access to Audio Ambassador, Liz Bailey. This week, I have the pleasure of being joined in our virtual studio by Gordon Stevenson, the Marketing and Communications Manager at Erskine. Welcome, Gordon.
Thank you, Alastair. Good morning to you.
How are you doing today? Are you enjoying the sunny weather down in Erskine?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. The grounds are lovely this morning. The autumn leaves are falling off the trees and the sun's in full shine. So, yeah, it's excellent. Really nice today. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, can I ask you, first of all, to tell us something about the work of Erskine?
Sure. Well, not many people probably know the full background to it. So Erskine was founded in 1916 primarily to provide support for those returning from the front in World War One, particularly veterans who required artificial limbs. The NHS didn't exist back then, and so if you didn't have the money yourself privately, then that was out of reach for most of the common working man. And so the Erskine was founded in 1916 as to that end. So that's obviously that has transformed throughout the decades to the establishment we have today, which was opened in the year 2000, the new Erskine Care Home in Bishopton. And that provides long-term and respite care for our residents, the veterans and their spouses.
Mm-hmm. Are you based on one site, or do you have a number of different sites, and if so, whereabouts are they?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, Alistair, because I think the misconception is widely that there's one site. So actually they have 4 sites. So there are actually 2 here in Bishopton, in Erskine, and there is one in Edinburgh, and there's one in Anniesland, and we have ambitions to open a 5th at some point. So yeah, it's actually quite a wide base that we have, both in the west and in the east, and with ambitions for the north. They comprise of a veterans village which has 44 cottages, an activity centre where veterans who have served in any capacity in the past can come to a day centre which we call EVAC, and they can obviously with COVID restrictions, they can participate in arts and crafts. It's a chance for them to meet socially, even though they may not be a resident here. We have 5 assisted living apartments and 24 single living apartments, which are currently under construction, which will be a transitional facility for veterans maybe leaving the armed forces and looking to reintegrate into society.
Fantastic. I mean, again, I did one of the CueAndReview veterans. One of our old boys was actually a staunch supporter of Erskine. Yes. And I always assumed that it was just down at Bishopton. I didn't realise that there was more than one site. So I'm glad we pulled that one out. Do you do much outreach work as well? You mentioned there about EVAC. Do you do much outreach work beyond your bases?
Yeah, well, we've been doing a lot of market research on that, Alastair. We're very aware of the fact that we don't have a lot of activity in the north, despite having a great fundraising base there. And so we don't do outreach at the moment. We have a lot of community fundraisers who work in the local communities and go out into all the areas of Scotland, both the north, the east and the west. But we want to do more in that area. We recognise it's something that we should be looking at. Our Chief Executive, Ian Cummings, is exploring that in detail at the moment. So hopefully we can discuss more of those plans in 2021, but it's definitely on the radar, Alastair.
I must admit, Gordon, that when I think of Erskine, I now think of your purple T-shirts, and I mean they've now become quite distinctive. But I also think of your television advert. When I looked on your website this morning, of course, I was immediately reminded of the two veterans and, the story behind that. But again, I mean, when you think of veterans, and even to a degree, the advert gives the impression that it's the world wars that your veterans come from. I mean, where is that the case, or where does your youngest veteran, where did they last serve?
Well, those that have seen combat, Alastair, will have most recently served in Afghanistan. But we do have other veterans. I don't want to name them and put their name in particular, but we have other veterans, for instance, that were perhaps injured severely during training, or injured in some form, but didn't actually see combat, but they have still served their country. And so, they are equally as welcome here at Erskine. So we have a number of younger residents that have perhaps lost the ability to walk, for instance, through an accident rather than as a combat injury. So that's not uncommon. It's something we expect to see, as an ongoing area where we can support.
So even if they've finished their service, they've gone into civil life, and something happens there, they're still welcome.
Yes, absolutely, and they don't have to have been born in Scotland, Alastair. That's another misconception. If they've served in the armed forces for at least a single day, they are technically eligible to be part of the Erskine facility, to any of the services we offer, whether that's coming down to the evac centre for the community work involved in the arts and crafts, or a longer term proposition, and we would look at that application. Absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, again, I think the other thought that always goes through my head is that it's military personnel. Is it more than military? Is it, RAF, or is it even the Navy?
Yes.
Are they involved with Erskine?
Yeah, that's a good point. Again, Alastair, something I wasn't particularly aware of myself before I joined here, is that it's for all three of the armed forces, so the British Army, the Royal Navy and the RAF. Not only for those that have served there, but also their partners are also eligible to come here if it's a residential proposition. We will look at that in the application. So yeah, it's all three. I think our research shows that that a large majority are from the British Army. I think probably because it's just a larger force. So by the sheer volume of numbers of those passing through the Army, that we have more residents from the Army and more using our services. But no, it's not exclusive to the Army by any means. It's, in fact, one of our oldest residents, called Hazy, was 105 yesterday, who's an RAF, which is just an amazing achievement, and he received his letter of congratulations from the Queen, I'm pleased to say.
How has Erskine battled through the lockdown? How have you had to radically change your services?
Yes, absolutely, Alastair. I think you're right in saying that, it is a war of a sort. The war in this dreadful disease has claimed a number of our residents in the first few days when the medical facilities establishment wasn't quite aware of how to combat it. So obviously we're all on top of that now, and we have the full PPE supplies, etc., that we require to keep our residents safe. Every member of staff of Erskine now gets COVID tested twice a week as well, which is great. So we know for a fact that we don't have it if we work in this facility, which is key to stop the prevention of that being transferred to our patients and residents. So yeah, it's changed a lot. It's changed for the residents because they don't have free access around the facility, which normally they do. The corridors outside our office here would usually be bustling with veterans coming and going. We've had a kind of day centre called the Bunker, which is usually a throng of activity with music and laughter. We've got a lovely eating facility called Harry's, the restaurant, which again is a social gathering place, not to mention the evac centre that I mentioned earlier on for the arts and crafts side. So that has really impacted the residents, and not to mention, and not least, access for the residents to their families, who usually come and visit on a very regular basis. That visiting has been really cut back to a bare minimum to prevent the spread of the disease and protect the residents as far as we possibly can. It's particularly difficult.
I think for us, I mean, one of the things for us at CueAndReview has obviously been that we've all been recording from home. And I think that's one of the things that's come across in these interviews that we've been doing as part of Q Talks, that a lot of services are in a very similar position. But one of the ways that people can get involved in helping residents in care homes is encouraging them to download the BWBF app, which is available on mobile phones, and it's available on laptops and tablets, etc. And it's a great way for people to get access to local talking newspapers. And of course, the reason we know each other is that you're heavily involved with CueAndReview from your past history as well in newspapers. So again, I think you know the importance of talking newspapers. Have many of the residents been listening to audio? Have they been listening to talking books or talking newspapers even?
Yes, well, Alastair, I think, as you know, we share that passion for audio as a whole new and actually untapped area of access for people to consume content, whether that's fiction stories or whether it's news, articles, sport, lifestyle. I think technology now can help expand the reach of this, of the great content and the work that's being done by CueAndReview. I'm not 100% sure at the moment that those who are visually impaired in Scotland, including our own veterans here at Erskine, are fully aware about how to access those services. So that's something I'm going to work with the Director of Care, Derek, here, who's really keen to explore this further about how we can get the CueAndReview's audible services into the hands of veterans. Now, I'd expect that a large number of them don't have access to smartphones, or maybe don't quite know how to work them or know how to install the app. So we're going to work hopefully with the nice people at CueAndReview to roll that out. If we need to purchase some pieces of hardware, we will. And as you know, we're also keen to further talk to the main Scottish news publishers about how we can add audio functions to their news articles.
To the newspapers. Yes.
So even if a resident does not have immediate access to the CueAndReview app, that they can still click play on an article and listen to that. The internet and content and news should be for all, not just for.
Well, I mean, it's only been 20 years, Gordon, since accessibility was a key feature of disability rights, and I must admit it is great that your own passion has been a major asset. As you know, we have struggled to get the message across, and I think that's why we at CueAndReview have greatly appreciated your role as almost ambassador-in-chief for our service, because you've been a great asset to us, and I really do appreciate that. But to finish up, obviously we want to be able to give listeners and viewers of this of Q Talks an opportunity to get in touch with you. So how do people get in touch with Erskine?
Okay, Alastair, so we have many channels open and we're happy to speak or engage with anyone on whichever channel they wish. So our website is www.erskine.org.uk/contact, or on many of our social media channels, which are, if you just do a search in Facebook for Erskine, or on Twitter or on LinkedIn. And we also have a YouTube TV channel there where we put our latest commercials and info videos on. If we want to go old school, we've still got telephone, so we can go 0141 814 4569. And by post also, the Erskine Home, Bishopton, Renfrewshire, PA7 5PU.
Fantastic. Good old snail mail. That's sometimes the best way to keep it going. I must admit, Gordon, I really do appreciate your time today, and thank you for taking part in this edition of Q Talks, and thank you for your service as the Ambassador-in-Chief, shall we say, the Honorary President of CueAndReview Print Speaking to the Blind. So all the best to you and your residents, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alastair. You're very welcome, and everybody just stay safe out there. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Q Talks with Liz Bailey. Our access to audio programmes are sponsored by Impact Funding Partners, the R.S. Macdonald Charitable Trust and the Suter Charitable Trust. To find out more about how to access our services, visit CueAndReview.com or email aaatl@CueAndReview.com. This programme was produced and presented by our Access to Audio Ambassador team leader, Liz Bailey, and edited by our Recruitment Training Officer, Alastair McPhee.